right.
Got it.
Got it.
Well, good morning. We're want to welcome everybody on this very hot, sultry July day in Jackson, and thank you for being here. The crowd's a little slack, but we expected that because of the time of the season of the year and the weather. I don't blame you at all. We only have a couple of announcements. As everybody knows, yesterday we really laid to rest a saint of the Lord in Kathy Jeffcoats, and she is one of those special folks, and we will not see her kind again in our lifetime around here. We could go on and on and on about the stories of Kathy Jeffcoats, but she was a true trench warrior for the Lord, and I'm sure she's having a great welcome home in heaven today. Also, next Saturday, we're having Dress a Child. Leslie, you want to talk about that a little bit? It's at Madison Walmart.
Madison Walmart, 9:30 to 11:30. It's best to show up around 9:30, but you can show up later. The line forms. If you've never, who's done it in here? It really is a lot of fun, and we need guys.
Yeah, you guys would enjoy this.
There are a lot of boys. What this does is we dress children who have a parent in prison. And you don't ask the child, what's your parents in for? You know, we talk about that, but I think that's happened for you, and that's not something we talk about. You just love them, and you help them find clothes. Sometimes they'll do backpacks and things. They'll tell you when you get there what is eligible and how much you spend. You have a calculator. You help them find their clothes for school year. And then, you know, even the Walmart is so good because they'll even put out some sweaters and things so they can think ahead. And then you just help them go check out, and you just pray with them, talk to them, spend a good time with them, and a lot of times it's a grandparent or some other guardian, an aunt with them, and it's just a special time, and they do appreciate it. So if you can go, I really, really, really encourage you to go. Even if you haven't signed up to be a volunteer, which it helps if you have, but even if you haven't and you realize you can go, just show up at the Madison Walmart 9:30 next Saturday morning.
Right.
We'll be out of town, so unfortunately we can't do it.
But every time we've done this, we've enjoyed it so. And these kids really love having a man help them. You know, the guys, it's just a great thing to be a guy there. You think it's women helping pick out clothes, but you know, these little boys love having a guy help them pick out the football jerseys and stuff they'll be wearing to school and all. They love it. It's a lot of fun.
You can go online. Let me see if there's.
You can register on the website, but you know, as spontaneous as some people's schedules are, just show up and they'll put you to work. Lori Ladner's super organized, and she's in charge of it. And yeah. Yeah. All right. Any other announcements that I'm missing? Okay, Blake, would you open us with a word of prayer, please?
Father God, thank you for allowing us to all come here today and together worship you. And just please be with us during this lesson, and just bless the service, bless our time together. And thank you for sending your son to die for all of us, forgive us of our sins, and just be with us this week.
Okay. Phil, I need to welcome Graham and Cody, who are watching on the internet today, and a lot of people watch us every Sunday. And they're kind of members of our Sunday school class. Some of them are in Texas, like my cousin and others. But you're a big part of our class. We're glad you're here today. We're studying the book of Job. This was Graham's idea, and it's a wonderful book, an old Mesopotamian poem. It was written around 2200 BC, first book of the Bible. It's an astonishing book, and it explores a very difficult subject for me, is the suffering of innocence. And a lot of people who know a lot about literature, like Victor Hugo and Tennyson and others, say it's the greatest work of literature ever conceived by the mind of man. Graham went over a lot last week, and we kind of ended up with the things that you should do and the things that you shouldn't do when you go to see somebody who's having a really tough time. They've lost their health, they've lost a loved one, they're in a difficult situation, and it's hard to know what to say. And boy, Graham covered all that, and I learned a lot from him. Today, we're going to continue looking at Job as he explores how can I acquire enough wisdom to understand and deal with this. And he is very eloquent, and it's very apparent that not only is he a wealthy man, the wealthiest man in the East, he's also a very educated man, very intelligent man, and yet he needs wisdom to try to make sense of this all. And I think all of us, as we go through life, need more wisdom. I mean, King Solomon asked for one thing. He was going to get anything he asked, and he asked for wisdom. And we're going to look at the concept of wisdom today, and when it was first mentioned in the Bible by Job. An amazing guy who was viewed by God as his servant. He constantly worshiped God. How did he know what to do? How did he know to sacrifice? He wrote the first scriptures there ever were. But he had a close relationship with God. He was very wealthy, father of 10 children that he had suddenly lost. And you know he was in grief as well as in extremis, in pain with his physical disabilities now. God had built a wall around him and given him prosperity and apparently a very considerate and privileged upbringing, as he refers to in these chapters we're going to look at. And suddenly that wall was removed, and Satan had his way and said, I will bet you that if I can deal with him, I will make him curse you to your face. That was Satan's challenge to God. In our class, it's all about the Bible. It's all about the Scriptures. We study directly from the Scriptures, and whatever it says we believe, and whatever it doesn't say we don't believe. We use the hermeneutic method of studying. Leslie and I do. There are different ways of studying, but we like the hermeneutics because we believe that the Bible is divinely inspired exactly as it says it is, and is word for word literally true. There are local applications that we're going to look at today, and there's doctrinal applications. Some of these things are mentioned for the first time and are adhered to in Baptist doctrine. Historical applications that applies today, and especially inspirational applications. There's so many things about the book of Job that change our lives. I want to ask you things, and we're going to just kind of throw things out for discussion a little bit. Does suffering of the righteous usually draw people to God or chase them away, as Satan predicted? We had a preacher around here one time, Frank Pollard. Some of y'all are too young to remember Frank, but he had this saying. He said, you're not really, really, really close to God until God's the only thing you got left. And in his career, he had dealt with people who had lost their wealth and their family and their health, and they were down to them and God. He had seen this. And some of y'all old enough are in family circumstances, you may have seen exactly this exact situation. Lost it all, down to him and God. Did Job ever deny God? Did he ever curse him or deny him? Did he lose his faith because of his adversities? Absolutely not. They eventually sustained him and got him through this. What is your assessment of Job's faith? I might have to call names. Very strong. Very strong. In the midst of all of his suffering. And what about his friends? Had these 3 friends that were dumbstruck when they came to see him and sat there for 7 days and didn't say a word to him. Were they believers? Eliphaz, Zophar, Bildad, were they believers? Absolutely. In their discourses, they say they are believers. What do you think it did to their faith? Do you think they might have felt inadequate to understand all this? Did Job feel inadequate to understand it? Did he search for answers? I think so, wouldn't you? How could this be happening to me? How could this be happening to my friend? We're going to look today at the doctrine of wisdom, Job 28. And we're going to look at the high-tech Job. Now, if one of y'all comes to see me in a nursing home in 25 years and I say, Jake, what are your children doing now? I said, well, he's getting a PhD at MIT in CRISPR technology. You know, we're gene splicing people, and all these diseases we can kind of make go away because we insert the correct gene. Really? Yeah. Well, Carol Ann, you and Seth, what are your children doing? Well, both of them are PhDs from Stanford in artificial intelligence. And they work for an aircraft company that designs airplanes with artificial intelligence. Really? High-tech stuff that we can't even imagine. What was high-tech 4,200 years ago when Job was running around? What was the highest tech thing going? Not tending sheep. What? We're going to refer to that, diverting flow of water. Yep. The highest tech thing going on, and the most brilliant people they had, because this was really catching on, was mining minerals. Somebody who could dig into that mountain over there and find veins of silver and gold and iron ore and lead, and especially zinc, so you could mix it with copper and make brass, or tin, so you could mix it with tin and make bronze. And you know, all mining was it. If you were really smart, you went into the mining business. But you know, they didn't understand a whole lot of things about mining, like you had to ventilate it. You burn candles down there, you eat up the oxygen, you're breathing yourself, and that's always bad. So they had to have ventilation shafts and all. They had to figure all this out. So the most brilliant minds of Job's day were in the mining business. And he's going to open up in Job 28. John, you got Job 28 there for me?
Yes, sir.
We're going to read that in just a minute. But before we do, we're going to look at what is wisdom. What is wisdom? Is it the same thing as intelligence? It's not. Well, could you be very intelligent and very diligent and a real book hound and get a lot of facts? And could you acquire wisdom through study and work and your own wits and guile? Could you become wise? Is that how you get to be wise? Because you're old now and you've been intelligent for a long time?
I think the experience paired with the intelligence is what else wisdom.
That's what I thought for a long time. If you're intelligent and work hard for long enough, you become wiser than when you started. Actually, if we look at the Oxford English Dictionary's definition of intelligence, that's the capacity for learning facts, reasoning, and understanding principles. A person who can learn 20 German spelling words and their meaning and their, part of speech and all that in, say, 15 minutes and spell them exactly correctly and use them in a sentence would be an intelligent person, right? They could assimilate a lot of facts, and they have an amazing ability to absorb information rapidly and collate things. And so that's an intelligent person, right? Wisdom is different. A wise person knows what is true and what's false. And knowing that, they possess just judgment to know what action to take. So if you think about it, that's quite different from intelligence. Where could you find an example of a person who's very intelligent but not very wise? Maybe the faculty lounge at a university. You know, somebody can work the second order differential equation in less than the time it takes me to pronounce it. And but they think the world's going to end because we don't have solar-powered lawnmowers. You know, and just they're very intelligent, and they could memorize 20 foreign language words and learn how to spell them and all that stuff in 15 minutes. I can't, but they lack wisdom. So the two are actually not correlated. Are they? I mean, where do we get them? Where do we get knowledge and wisdom. Where does wisdom come from? We're going to look at that. Job looked at that hard. Wisdom, as Solomon knew, and Solomon asked, always comes from God. It's also called discernment in the Bible. In 1 Corinthians, it's one of the spiritual gifts. Knowledge is separate. Knowledge is intelligence. A very separate and different thing, and not something that Job asked for. If you are highly intelligent, and if you have worked hard, you've probably distinguished yourself in some field eventually, right? No matter what your avenue of interest is. And so with that, what comes next? You become a great lawyer, a great physics teacher, you become a great doctor, a great whatever, because you're intelligent, you worked hard, you've achieved a lot. So what, do you get respect of the community, maybe? They admire you, probably accumulate what? Assets, gold, silver, precious jewels. Wife has a bigger wedding ring than anybody in the bridge club, that kind of thing. You do well, very, very well, well enough to send your kids to the best schools and live in a big house and all that kind of stuff because of your intelligence. What about wisdom? Can wisdom make you that way? Important to know at your stage in your career is just kind of standing on the threshold of life. Can wisdom get you there? Absolutely, it's a big help. If I appoint somebody to a bank board to serve with Art Stevens, I'd want him to be wise. Somebody can tell what somebody's just said is true or not, making a loan. And that's important. I mean, we got people that can do the math in the back office, but it's important to be wise too. There's wisdom in the scriptures, lots of places. Where is it mentioned first? Job. Proverbs 16:16, how much better to get wisdom instead of gold and silver? Because a lot of people, especially intelligent people, expend all their time and all their efforts trying to get gold and silver, something that you can't take to heaven and does not translate into God's will. Blessed is the one who finds wisdom and the one who gets understanding, for the gain from her is better than the gain from silver and gold. She is more precious than jewels, and nothing you can possess can compare to her. Long life are in her right hand, and riches and honor in her left. Her ways are the ways of pleasantness, and her ways are the ways of peace. To God alone belong wisdom and power, counsel and understanding are his. Proverbs 1:7, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Is that the first time it's mentioned in the Bible? John's going to tell us in a minute. Proverbs 2:6, for the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. A person of understanding delights in wisdom. A person of intelligence delights in wisdom. A good concept to have if you happen to be intelligent. Most of y'all are, all of y'all are. More than me for sure. Okay, so now we're going to get back to wisdom and riches, and we're also going to look at, in the next chapter, fame. The fame that goes with, and community standing that goes with, the accoutrements of being intelligent and having large sums of money. Remember what Voltaire said, influence is the effluence of affluence. John, you going to read for us?
Sure.
We'll let the Holy Spirit teach the lesson now. Job starts off with mining.
Surely there is a mine for silver in a place where they find gold. Iron is taken from the dust, and from the rock, copper is smelted. Man puts an end to
John, can you come up here so the TV camera can see if you don't mind?
Started. Surely there is a mine for silver in a place where they refine gold. Iron is taken from the dust, and from rock, copper is smelted. Man puts an end to darkness, and to the farthest limit he searches out. The rock in gloom and deep shadow, he sinks a shaft far from habitation, forgotten by the foot. They hang and swing to and fro, far from men. The earth, from it comes food, and underneath it is turned up as fire. Its rocks are the source of sapphires, and its dust contains gold. The path no bird of prey knows, nor has the falcon eyes caught sight of it.
What is a path that no bird's ever seen? There's a lot of figures of speech in the Bible. That's a mine shaft. That's a mine shaft. Their brightest and best in Job's day were miners. They were his day's astronauts.
The proud beast have not trodden it, nor has the fierce lion passed over it. He puts his hand on the flint, he overturns the mountains at the base. He hews out channels through rocks, and his eyes see anything precious. He dams up the streams from flowing, and what is hidden he brings out to the light.
Okay, again, they had to divert underground rivers and stuff in mines to get where they needed to be and divert the flow of water. It took genius to figure this out in that day.
But where can wisdom be found, and where is the place of understanding? Man does not know its value, nor is it found in the land of the living. The deep says, it is not in me, and the sea says, it is not with me. Pure gold cannot be given in exchange for it, nor can silver be weighed as its price. It cannot be valued in the gold of Ophir, its precious onyx or sapphire. Gold or glass cannot equal it, nor can it be exchanged for articles of fine gold. Coral and crystal are not to be mentioned, and the acquisition of wisdom is above that of pearls. The topaz of Ethiopia cannot equal it, nor can it be valued in pure gold. Where then does wisdom come from, and where is the place of understanding? Thus it is hidden from the eyes of all the living, and concealed from the birds of the sky. Abaddon and death say, with our ears we have heard of a report of it. God understands its way, and he knows its place, for he looks to the ends of the earth, and he sees everything under the heavens. When he imparted weight to the wind, and melted out the waters by measure, meted out the waters by measure, when he set a limit for the rain and a course for the thunderbolt, and he saw it and declared it, he established it and also searched it out. And to man he said, behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding.
So where does wisdom and understanding come from? From God. Did you notice a few rather forward-looking scientific statements in what he just read? Wait a minute, we're going to go. Who knew that air had weight 4,200 years ago? That we stand here 750 torr of weight at sea level. Pretty forward-looking. All right, we're going to go into the next chapter, and he's going to talk about his upbringing and fame as he continues.
And Job again took up his discourse and said, oh, that I were as in months gone by, and in the days when God watched over me, when his lamp shone over my head, and by his light I walked through darkness, as I was in the prime of my days, when the friendship of God was over my tent, when the Almighty was yet with me, and my children were around me, when my steps were bathed in butter, and the rock poured out from me streams of oil. When I went out of the gate to the city, when I took my seat in the square, the young men saw me and hid themselves, and the old men arose and stood. The princes stopped talking and put their hands on their mouths.
That's some respect right there, isn't it? When everybody shuts up when you walk in the room, and even the princes stop talking, the old men all stand up. When a young man walks in the room, he was a respected, high-level, cosseted, raised kid.
The voice of the nobles was hushed, and their tongue stuck to their palate. For when the ear heard, it called me blessed, and when they saw it, it gave witness of me. Because I delivered the poor who cried for help, and the orphan who had no helper. The blessing of the one ready to perish came upon me, and I made the widow's heart sing for joy. I put on righteousness, and it clothed me. My justice was like a robe and a turban. It was eyes to the blind and feet to the lame. I was a father to the needy, and I investigated the case which I did not know. I broke the jaws of the wicked and snatched the prey from his teeth. Then I thought, I shall die in my nest, and I shall multiply my days as the sand. My root was spread out to the waters, and dew lies all night on my branch. My glory is ever new with me, and my bow is removed in my hand. To me they listened and waited, and kept silent for my counsel. After my words they did not speak again. and my speech dropped on them. And they waited for me as for the rain, and opened their mouth as for the spring rain. I smiled on them when they did not believe, and the light of my face they did not cast down. I chose a way for them and sat as chief, and dwelt as a king, dwelt as a king among the troops, as one who comforted the mourners.
Okay, so he had it all growing up. He had respect, he had money, and he's, you know, as Job opens, he's got all these camels and all these sheep and all these donkeys and on and on and on. He's wealthiest man, and people stop talking when he walks in to the village gates, and even though he's very young, the old men stand up for him. He's got it all. What happens to you when they take it away? What happens to you when you go downtown and suddenly all this is gone? Your family's gone, your health is gone, and your assets are gone. John will read this chapter.
But now those younger than I mock me, whose fathers I disdained to put with the dogs of my flock. Indeed, what good was the strength of their hands to me? Vigor had perished from them. From want and famine they are gone, who gnaw the dry ground by night in waste and desolation, who pluck mallow by the bushes, and whose food is the root of the broom shrub. They are driven from the community, they shout against them as against a thief. So they dwell in dreadful valleys, in holes of the earth and of the rocks. Among the bushes they cry out, under the nettles they are gathered together. Fools, even those without a name, they were scourged from the land. And now I have become their taunt, I have even become a byword to them. They arbor me and stand aloof from me, and they do not refrain from spitting at my face, because he has loosed his bowstring and afflicted me. They have cast off the bridle before me. On the right hand their brood arises. They thrust aside my feet and build up against me their ways of destruction. They break up my path, they profit from my destruction. No one restrains them. As though a wide breach they come, amid the tempest they roll on. Terrors are turned against me. They pursue my honor as the wind, and my prosperity has passed away like a cloud. And now my soul is poured out within me. Days of affliction have seized me. At night it pierces my bones within me. Land, thou dost persecute me. Thou dost lift me up to the wind and cause me to ride, and thou dost dissolve me in a storm. For I know that thou wilt bring me to death, and to the house of meeting for all living. Yet does not one in a heap of ruin stretch out his hand, or is his disaster therefore cry out for help? Have I not wept for the one whose life is hard? Why not my soul grieve for the needy? Was not my soul grieved for the needy? When I expected good, then evil came. When I waited, came. I am seething within and cannot relax. Days of affliction confront me. I go about mourning without comfort. I stand up in the assembly and cry out for help. I have become a brother to jackals and a companion of ostriches. My skin turns black on me, and my bones burn with fever. Therefore my harp is turned to mourning, and my flute to the sound of those who weep.
Excellent. So Job has been from the heights of life to the depths of life. And that's as eloquent an account of that experience as I can imagine, and all put to poetry. And through it all, what did he not give up? His faith. Because he knew his faith would sustain him through it, and he knew that God would never really eternally turn his back on him, and that he would eventually be rewarded and be with God, and his Redeemer would stand on the earth as he predicts. Thank you, John. Questions and comments? It's an amazing book, isn't it? Job. Lots for us to learn, especially those of you who are on the threshold of life. Better to work hard and wits and guiles and spend every minute acquiring things, or to ask God in prayer for wisdom.
Do you think wisdom is the most important thing Solomon could have asked for?
Yes.
One of them.
Yeah.
I would say fellowship with God would be number one.
Yeah.
Even before.
Of course, you're right, and you're always right. But, it had to be pretty tight with God for God to say, I'll give you anything you want. Only one thing, though. But he was, yeah. And of all the things he could have chosen, And many times God takes a wise man and you see him really flesh out what he has. But in the case of Job, he was a wise man indeed, and he never gave up his faith, and he never cursed God, and he never even bent, that I can find in any of these scriptures. Any other questions or comments?
I have an announcement I forgot to say earlier. Marley Howard called me this week. She's the preschool minister.
Yeah.
Or preschool, whatever. Anyways, and she was saying that they needed help in like lots of areas. Like they said that they needed a couple of helpers, like in Sunday school, like they do like every other week, and then mission friends, and they're also like in VIP or whatever it's called. So if anybody wants to help with that,
So just contact Marley.
yeah, and I have the information, and so if you're interested, I can just send you an email or whatever.
So you can contact Carol Ann, okay? All right, thank you. All right, Joel, will you dismiss us, please?
Lord, for our time together in this class, all the safety provider and travel, we be with us this week, and move forward. Please be with the church family, and please Jeff goes. Our ministry, as we reach out from the pastor, please bless the social media, be with everyone in this room and their families. As we all must do, Jesus, we pray.
Amen.